Welcome to the Factor-Inwentash Faculty of Social Work, MSW Information Session here at the University of Toronto. My name is Terry Gardner, and I'm the Manager of Diversity, Equity, and Student Experience.
And I'm Angela Umbrello, the Administrative Coordinator for Admissions and Programs. Thank you all for joining us.
I will be sharing information on the program, and Angela will review admissions requirements and process. We always start off with greetings from our Dean, Dexter Voisin, who is always excited and interested to hear about individuals who might be considering social work as a potential professional path. All of the information we present in this information session can be found in the MSW program booklet, which is available on our website. So, as we think about social work, I'll invite you to consider, when you see those two words together, social and work, what comes to mind? We have one definition that's available. Social work is a profession concerned with helping individuals, families, groups, and communities to enhance their individual and collective well-being. What this suggests is that social work is a profession, which means that very specific skills, knowledge, training, and experience go into being able to do this very particular work. Social workers also are connected all across our communities, with individuals, with families, with groups. And very often people will say to me that they think about social work as helping people who are marginalized in really challenging circumstances. This is absolutely true. But social workers also support individuals who are doing okay and are looking to do better. Where might you find social workers? On the screen, you'll see a selection of organizations where social workers are involved in many different ways. Most people will be aware of the Children's Aid Society and the child welfare systems across Canada. In the healthcare system, social workers support clients and patients navigating what can be a very complex system. Social workers work with seniors, with children. The STOP is an organization that supports, among other things, a community garden, helping individuals to learn how to grow and harvest and prepare healthy meals. And then social workers are involved in policy development at all levels of government, from the municipal to the provincial to the federal. The University of Toronto is the oldest institution of higher education in Canada, and the Factor-Inwentash Faculty of Social Work is the oldest school of social work in the country, having celebrated 100 years of excellence in social work education, practice, and research in 2014. The focus of university is the development of new knowledge, and our faculty is a leader in North America among schools of social work for the quantity and quality of the research, the new knowledge that is produced by our world-recognized professors. Our dean, for example, is a leading expert in the area of violence within communities and the impact of that violence on communities. We have other researchers who are studying the impact of sexually transmitted infections within Indigenous and other communities across Canada. And we also have researchers and scholars who are looking at the impact of HIV in a global context. All of these are issues and experiences that impact individuals, communities, and families, not just in Toronto, in Canada, but globally. The MSW, or Master of Social Work, is a generalist professional degree. And what that means is we accept that no one program can provide all of the knowledge, all of the skills, all of the experience that you as a social work student will need in order to practice with people in general. It's like we offer you a toolbox when you enter the program. There are some required sets of knowledge and skills that will be part of the program. But as a professional graduate degree, students are invited to pick up the knowledge that is relevant to the kind of work they're interested in and the skills that might be relevant to particular areas of the field in which they might perceive that they could work. What this requires is that each applicant will need to consider carefully the kind of social worker that you're interested in being, so that when you're in the program, you are guiding the learning of the program. Professors will offer assignments and papers, not in a directed way as you would in an undergraduate degree, but for example, might say, choose a population and an issue which for you is relevant, and write about how social workers might intervene, leading to positive, evidence-informed outcomes. This requires students to be clear and intentional about the areas where they're building their own knowledge. What we expect is that all of our graduates walking across the stage at convocation will have toolboxes, but within those toolboxes, there may be different tools that lead to different kinds of work. We have 3 options for our MSW program. The 2-year MSW full-time is for applicants who have a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science degree other than social work. The MSW program with advanced standing is for applicants who have completed or are in the process of completing a Bachelor of Social Work. And the 2-year full-time MSW Indigenous Trauma and Resilience is for applicants with either a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, or BSW degree. So for our 2-year program, what does it look like? All of the courses in the first year of the 2-year program are required, and they provide an overall grounding and a context for social work. The Social Work Policy and Social Welfare course helps students start to begin to understand the lay of the land. What are the laws? What are the legislations that govern us as a society? What are the policies that impact the clients with whom we will interact? Understanding immigration policy is really important when we know from the data that over 50% of the citizens of Toronto were born outside of this country. This means that we have to understand and have information relevant to the immigration process if over 50% of our clients will have experienced this process. Elements of Social Work Practice and Social Work Practice Lab is a full-day course where students will engage with one instructor in the morning and in the afternoon, starting to build the skills of relationship building, interviewing, and supporting clients in individual contexts. Learning what questions we might ask in the interview process, but also how and when we might ask those questions to be respectful, relevant, but also to make sure that the evidence we gather is actually going to stand up as we work through assessment and potentially sharing of information. In January of the first year, students are eligible to start their first year practicum, which goes from January through May. 3 days a week, January through April, and then April, May, it goes to 4 days a week. The practicum is where students are connected to a social service organization supervised by an MSW, building the concrete skills connecting with clients or engaging in community work. As we get to the end of the first year, we invite students to start thinking about the kind of social work they are very interested in and where they would like to focus their studies for the second year of the MSW program. There are 5 fields of study: children and their families, gerontology, human services management and leadership, mental health and health, and social justice and diversity. We know that there is incredible overlap in all of these areas. Human beings are complex and dynamic, and there's no way that any one field of study will cover every single area. But what we do know is that it allows students, through their academic work and their practicum, to focus their knowledge and skill building in a particular area of social work. Children and their families is our first field of study. and focuses on a developmental ecological model, which is to understand children within the context of their family, within the context of their society. The coursework looks very particularly at child development, young adult development, family interactions, and of course includes a course on policy and research. You'll notice that the Research for Evidence-Based Practice course, which is also in the first year curriculum, is also here for students in the advanced standing cohort. This is a key course. One of the foci of our faculty, Research for Practice. Being able to understand the research and evidence that is available so that we can apply it in practice to our clients and to our work. It is clear that not all of the research that is published in peer-reviewed journals will represent best evidence or best science. As social workers, we have to be able to articulate when and how research is representative of best evidence, best methods, but also relevant to our clients. So for example, if a client comes to us and says they've heard on the news that a young boy has been cured of autism, and there's a research study that proves that, we have to be able to look at that study and offer in clear language to our clients how and why a study of two boys from upper middle class families in Sweden may or may not be relevant to an Indigenous family living in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Gerontology. This field of study is looking at the aging population and supporting individuals over the age of 55 and their families. What we know is that the aging process begins at birth. And so gerontologists often remind us that it's important to have an understanding of the full life course, what came before age 55, in order to be able to understand and effectively support individuals after age 55. The coursework builds on theory relevant to older individuals, research and evidence connected specifically to gerontological issues, and of course the practicum would be providing the opportunity for students to engage and interact with individuals and families experiencing gerontological issues. Human Services Management Leadership. For many years, our faculty has heard from our graduates that within the first 5 years of receiving their MSW, they're being encouraged, sometimes pushed to take on leadership positions within social service organizations. And many of these graduates said to us, we're not sure we know exactly what to do to be a leader. We're not sure we have all of the very specific skills that might be required. This field of study was developed specifically to provide that knowledge and those supports. The courses focus on financial management. How do you develop a spreadsheet? How do you create a budget? How do you create a 5-year financial plan for your organization? Human resources management. Learning the skills of support team, doing really challenging frontline work so that they feel validated, supported, and want to come back next week and do it again. And then, of course, research within organizations. How do we ensure that frontline practitioners and executives within social service organizations are gathering the knowledge and informing research so that the new knowledge created doesn't always come from academic settings? Each of the fields of study, you will also notice that there are 2 electives, freestanding courses available in our timetables that students from any field of study can take. We have a wide range of electives covering the gamut from mindfulness practice, social work with Indigenous populations, social work supporting individuals and families experiencing disability, and a range of others. Mental health and health. This field of study offers a few different options. You could focus on both mental health and health, looking at physical as well as mental illness and well-being in individuals and in communities. The courses, if you're choosing to do mental health and health, would focus on both the theory and the practice, the interventions relevant to health and mental health. Within this field of study, you could also choose to focus solely on mental health, in which case the coursework would be focusing on the diagnoses, the presenting issues, but also the practice skills of supporting individuals with mental health experiences and challenges. Or you could focus on health, which would be looking at healthcare settings, looking at the physical health and well-being of individuals, families, and communities. Social justice and diversity is a field of study that does not necessarily focus on any one population. It's looking rather at experiences of marginalization, oppression, and resilience at an individual, community, and global level. The theory focuses on different frameworks that are available for understanding historic, political, and social injustice in our society, but also frameworks that help us to revision and to aspire to different ways of supporting resilience within individuals and communities. Our MSW, Indigenous Trauma and Resilience field of study, is a very particular program which was developed as a response out of a dream which an elder in the Indigenous community had. A dream for a place where learning and knowledge would be shared to support change and resilience building within Indigenous communities in response to the generational, intergenerational, multi-generational trauma that we know has occurred as a result of hundreds of years of colonialism in Canada. This field of study focuses at a global level, a global Indigenous level. One of the elders who teaches in this program often reminds us that we're all children of our mother, the earth. And wherever we were born on this planet, we have an intrinsic connection to the land and the history of that place. Students are invited to consider their own personal connection, whether it be their indigeneity in Canada, in Africa, in Europe, or in Asia, to understand the history of trauma that has occurred across our globe and how it might specifically connect to them personally, but also to the communities from which they have sprung, and also the communities in which they might be serving. The coursework looks specifically at Indigenous communities, and again from a global context, to understand how our social, political, and economic policies have led to situations that are experienced today. The focus in this field of study is understanding trauma theory and how we may build and develop and implement a trauma-informed approach to working with communities. The courses in the MSW ITR program are offered in a very particular way. This program is described as a hybrid in that one course in person each semester is taught as an intensive, meaning that students are in class for 6 days, Sunday through Friday, 9 to 5, in person here at the faculty in Toronto. And all of the other courses are taught by online methods. So students would physically have to be here at our faculty for 1 week each semester over the 2-year course of the program. All of the other courses would be taught online, and the practicum, which students would engage in, can either be engaged in Toronto or in students' home communities. We currently have students in this program all across Canada, from the East Coast to the West Coast, and including in Northwest Territories. The focus of the program, the ITR program, is to facilitate training to support and work with Indigenous communities. The coursework also focused on leadership and capacity building, being able to identify and assess the needs, hearing from and incorporating the feedback and the input of communities, and then developing with community research and evidence-informed methods to move forward to support development and growth within the community. We have a number of collaborative specializations in combined programs. Combined programs are an opportunity to develop knowledge in 2 areas and to graduate with 2 degrees. The JD MSW program recognizes the intersection between law and social work, and students would be studying at the Faculty of Law and the Faculty of Social Work. The combined program allows for the elimination of 1 year of study or equivalent if it is done combined as opposed to consecutively. So for example, the JD program typically would be 3 years. The MSW program would be 2 years. If it is done combined, instead of 5, it becomes 4 years. Students would have to apply to both programs and be admitted to both in order to do a combined program. Typically, students would do their first year at law, their second year at social work, and then years 3 and 4, they're taking courses at both faculties. Our collaborative programs allow students to add knowledge and experience that is complementary to social work. As you can see, there are quite a range. We encourage you to click on the links on our website where there's specific information on each of the collaborative programs. Some of them may require just 2 courses to complete, so students can use the 2 elective courses in their second year of the MSW program to meet the requirements of a collaborative program. Some of the collaborative programs may require more than 2 courses or may have a specific application process. We encourage you to click on the links if you're interested in a collaborative program so that you can find out the specifics that are required for the collaborative program. If you're applying to the 2-year MSW program, you do not need to indicate interest in a collaborative program in the application. If, however, you are applying to the advanced standing program, you will have to indicate interest in a collaborative program as part of the application. And of course, a number of support services available at the university. We have a great registrar and administrative team providing support for students in our programs. We're very fortunate to have an on-site writing center. Writing at the graduate level and writing for social work may be different than the kind of writing students have engaged in before. You do need to make an appointment, and students will not be able to submit their papers for feedback 5 minutes before it's due in class, but our writing center and their team do provide a valuable service, and students have told us again and again that it has made an incredible difference in their ability to be successful in the program. We, of course, work very closely with accessibility services here at the University of Toronto to ensure that students with a diagnosed disability have all of the supports and accommodations to which they're entitled. And we also work closely with First Nations House, the site at the University of Toronto, which is a cultural hub for knowledge about Indigenous, Aboriginal, Métis, and Inuit people, culture, and history. Our deadline dates. If you're applying to the 2-year MSW program, an MSW with advanced standing, we suggest that you start the application, the online application, by November 1st. November 28th is the final date to submit the online application, fee, and transcripts, and December 10th is the last date by which supporting documentation is due. I'll now turn it over to Angela, who will provide more information about the application process and admission requirements.
Thank you so much, Terry. Pardon me. Okay, so we'll start off with the admission requirements for the 2-year MSW full-time program. We require that applicants have an appropriate bachelor's degree from a recognized university. That typically translates to a 4-year undergraduate degree, a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Commerce degree. Where it gets questionable is if you have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, and if that applies to anyone listening to this session, we encourage you to reach out to us and we can have a conversation. The grade requirement is a mid-B average in your final year of full-time study, specifically looking at senior level courses, 300 or 400 level courses. A mid-B is 73% or better, 3.0 or a straight B. We don't require a certain number of senior level courses within your undergraduate degree, but if you've taken undergraduate senior level courses, those are the courses we're going to focus in when we calculate your GPA. And typically a full course load is anywhere from 4 to 5 full credit courses, 8 to 10 half courses. We require 3 full credit courses in the social sciences to include a half credit course in research methodology. For the research methodology requirement, a mid-B is strongly recommended. Our materials do indicate that a grade less than mid-B may lessen your chances of admission. And in terms of social sciences, what is a social science? Anything your home university designates as a social science, we will allow. Some of the more common social sciences would be anthropology, economics, political science, psychology, sociology, social work. There are some disciplines that have a crossover where they may be deemed a humanities or a social science, depending on the content in the course. So it's always going to be linked back to your undergraduate university and how they designate that particular course. Experience is not a requirement, but is strongly recommended. And the English language proficiency applies to individuals educated outside of Canada and the United States, where the language of instruction and examination was not English. And if that applies to anyone out there, please check out our website for a listing of all of the applicable test scores, such as TOEFL, the IELTS, etc. Okay, admission requirements for the MSW program with advanced standing. Here, in order to be eligible for this stream, you do need to have a Bachelor of Social Work degree, or you're currently enrolled in a BSW program from a recognized university. It must be recognized by the Canadian Association for Social Work in Education if it's within Canada, and if it's from the States, it must be recognized by the Council on Social Work Education. If you have a BSW degree from overseas, it's not a given that we will accept it as a BSW. You can formally apply, and once you apply, we'll do a full review of your academic transcripts, looking at your social work courses, and also looking at the number of practicum hours that you may have completed as part of that program. You need a minimum of 700 hours. The mid-B requirement here is not looking at senior level courses, but it's a mid-B average in your final year of full-time study or equivalent. The research requirement is exactly the same as the 2-year. We strongly recommend that you have at least a mid-B, again 73% or better, or 3.0. Experience is not a requirement, but strongly recommended. The English language proficiency, exactly the same as the 2-year. Here, applicants applying for the Advanced Standing Program must choose a field of study on the online application and on the MSW program application form, which is a subsequent form you submit after your initial application. And you would choose one of the 5 fields of study that Terry mentioned. When you're doing your online application, you choose, say, for example, gerontology. Then when you do the MSW program application form, you should be choosing the same one. It should match so that there is no mismatch. If you've changed your mind, you would need to reach out to us so that we can make the change on our systems. And advanced standing applicants, you can also choose whether or not you're wanting to be considered for full-time studies or part-time studies. We do not have a part-time program, but applicants completing the MSW program with advanced standing have the option to complete the program on a part-time basis. We do not guarantee that all courses will be offered in the evening. They are integrated with full-time studies. And from year to year, we never know how many positions will be available for part-time studies. It does vary. Anywhere from 8 to 15 positions can be available in any given year. So how to apply? The online application will open up by September the 27th, and the link on screen is where you would go to formally apply. The nice thing about the online application is it allows you to start the process and save it as a draft until you're ready to finalize. And when you finalize, that means you've made payment. So you'll be asked to submit your personal information, like your name, your mailing address, your academic information, listing all colleges and universities that you've attended, including CSHEP for those of you educated in the Quebec system. And you'll need to submit the names of 3 references with their contact information, so their name, first and last, organization they are affiliated with, their phone number, and relationship to applicant. Those are all required fields. If they have a valid institutional email address, you can input that as well. If they have an email address listed on screen, such as Yahoo, Hotmail, or Gmail, they are not recognized by the system, so you cannot put those extensions in. Once you input the names of your 3 references, triple check your application, and then you can submit payment. As soon as payment happens, if you provided an email address for one of your referees, they will automatically be sent an email from the system asking them to submit a reference on your behalf. So you want to be sure that you've checked with them, they've agreed to provide you with the reference before they get that request. If your referees do not have a valid email address, you can still input their contact information, do not include their email address, and then make your payment. Once that happens, you can then send them the reference template, which is available from our website, and they will submit the reference offline. They will complete it, and they can mail it directly to us, or they can provide it to you in an unsealed envelope, and you in turn can submit it to the faculty. The key thing is that the reference coming in offline must be received in a signed, sealed envelope. So what's required to apply? Once you've done your online application and you've made payment, all of the templates will open up. So you'll see an icon for electronic transcripts and official transcripts. For the electronic transcript, you can submit your own personal copy of the transcript, or for most Canadian institutions, you should be able to go into the Student Web Service, download your academic record, and that's what you can upload to the online application. For the official transcript, we require one official transcript from all colleges and universities that you have attended, and it must be received in a signed, sealed envelope. The quickest way would be to have the institution mail it directly to the Faculty of Social Work at 246 Bloor Street West. The address will be coming up in a few minutes, or you could pick it up and drop it off in person, or if you want to have it sent to your home and then you in turn submit it to us, that's also acceptable, but the key thing is that it must be received in a signed, sealed envelope. So you will be required to submit 3 references, and it's a little different depending on whether or not you're applying the 2-year or the advanced standing program. All of you will need 1 academic reference from a university course instructor. However, if you have been out of school for more than 3 years, you may substitute the academic reference with another work or volunteer-related reference. Your second reference would be work or volunteer-related. The third reference for our 2-year applicants would be a second academic or a second work or volunteer-related. It's really up to you in terms of what you have in your portfolio and who you have to draw on as a potential reference. For our advanced standing applicants, your third reference would be from your practicum field instructor, your field supervisor, if you're currently in your BSW, or if your BSW degree was awarded within the past 2 years. If your degree was awarded over 2 years ago, then your reference would be from your current supervisor. If you are currently in a BSW program and you only do 1 placement and your placement may not start until the winter term, you can't provide this reference. You may substitute this reference with another work or volunteer-related reference, and we would ask that you include a cover letter with your resume to explain your choice of references. Okay, the next document that would be required is the MSW program application form. And here it's asking you things that we want you to note for us, other than of course, your name. We ask you to identify the course you've taken or plan to take that meets the research requirement. So as you heard from Terry's presentation, all of you, if admitted, will be doing 2 courses in research, 4510, which which is evidence-based social work practice, and the research course specific to your field of study. So there's an emphasis on research here, and our admissions committee looks very carefully to see how well you've done the research methods course. If you've taken multiple courses, identify the course in which you received the highest grade. If you've taken a course but you did not get at least a B, we would strongly encourage you to upgrade your research mark, and certainly check out our listing of approved research courses, which is noted on our website. An optional question is, if you previously applied to the program, you can describe how you have strengthened your application. And then for our advanced standing applicants, you have to provide a brief rationale for your field of study selection. Next is your resume. Cannot stress this enough. There is no page limit to the resume. So on screen are some of the headings that could potentially be on your resume. If they apply to you, include these headings. If there are other headings that apply, feel free to include them. What we really want to highlight here is no page limit, and you need to include all of your work and volunteer experience, both related and unrelated to social work, including domestic and international experience. You need to include the month and year the experience started, month and year it ended, and the total number of hours per experience. This is key, and if you're not including this information, it may lessen your chances of admission, as noted in our application materials. The written statement, the 5 questions are in the MSW program booklet, as well as on our website. We encourage all applicants to apply to multiple programs, but when you're addressing the statement, we strongly encourage that you really pay careful attention to our questions and address the questions that are being asked of you from our admissions committee. Each question has a word cap of 500 words, so please respect the word count. And our MSW applicants with applying for advanced standing, there's one additional piece you need to submit, which is the field practicum experience. Here we're asking you to describe all of your BSW field practicum experiences and include the name of the organization, the dates you were in placement, your instructor's name, etc., and outline your assignments. I'll go back to the example that if your place does not start until the winter or the spring and you don't have this information, you're still required to upload something on the online application. So even if you indicate in a document, my placement starts winter and I will submit additional information through email, that would be sufficient for now. And then when your practicum details become available, please ensure you email the information to the admissions email account. So just recap what's required. Once you've paid your online application, the fee, you would then be able to see the icons for the various pieces on screen. You are able to upload your scanned transcripts, the program application form, the resume, field practicum experience if applicable, and the statement directly to the online application site. You don't need to do them all at once. You can do them as you have them finalized. Your referees, if they had a valid email address, once they complete their completed form, they are able to upload the completed reference directly to the site. If the reference is coming in offline, once that reference is received, I go into the system and indicate that it has been received. And the same thing with official transcripts. When they come in, I'll be able to go into the system and indicate that they have been received. And you are able to track receipt of all documentation. Okay, we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about the ITR deadline dates, which is a little earlier. So October the 17th is our suggested early deadline date. November 1st is the final date to do online application, and then November 15th is the deadline for the supporting documentation. And people ask, why do we have 2 deadline dates for that initial application? We encourage applicants to apply early so that the referees have sufficient lead time to get their references in. If you apply by the 17th, in this case, you're giving your referees close to a month. If you apply by the 1st, they only have 2 weeks. And the timestamp is always 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So what's required? For the ITR, you need an appropriate bachelor's, very similar to the 2-year program, a 4-year Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, or a Bachelor of Social Work degree. We are stressing that it is a 2-year full-time program, regardless if you have the BSW. A mid-B average is required in your final year of full-time study or equivalent. Again, we're looking at senior level courses, 300 or 400. And the mid-B is 73% or better, 3.0. We require 3 full credit courses in the social sciences plus the research, and this is exactly the same as the 2-year, so I won't repeat myself. Here, you do need to have a minimum of 3 years of work experience in the social services, Indigenous services sector field. The English language proficiency, exactly like the 2-year and the advanced standing. So once you do the online application and you submit all of the documentation, the MSW ITR Admissions Committee will review your application, and at that point they will make a decision as to whether or not they're going to invite you in to participate in an interview, which can be either in person or Skype. And if that happens, you will notify you via email. If it does not happen, that means your application has not been successful, and you'll get a letter letting you know about that. And again, we're stressing it's a 2-year full-time program for all applicants, including BSWs. So how to apply? The online application will open up by September the 27th, and that is the link on screen. Again, you're going to put in your personal information, your academic information, and the names of your referees. You submit payment, and again, we're stressing that you please be aware of deadline dates. So the online application and the application fee is number 1. Once that's done, all of the templates open up. The transcripts are exactly the same as the 2-year and the advanced standing, so I won't repeat myself. Here you need to submit 2 references, and we'll talk about the references next. So again, stressing that scanned transcripts, you can go through the student web service, and then you mail in 1 official transcript, just like the 2 years and advanced standing. So references, they can be from, only 2 are required, and they can be from any of the sources listed on screen, either academic, worker volunteer, from your practicum supervisor, traditional teacher, mentor, professional colleague. You can decide. And they have, as I said, once they get that reference request from the system, they're able to complete the reference and submit it directly via the SGS online portal. The resume, very detailed instructions here on the resume. Again, no page limit. Please ensure you use the headings if applicable, and you must include your month and year that the experience started and ended and total number of hours. The written statement questions, again, they're in the program booklet and on our website. They are slightly different than the 2-year and advanced standing, but please, again, pay careful attention to the questions and respond to the questions that are being asked. This is the address that you need to send all documentation that's coming in offline or by mail, in person. So it's the 246 Bloor Street West address. If it goes anywhere else, the documentation may not get to us for about 6 months. So please ensure that this is the address that all transcripts are sent to and all references that are being mailed coming in offline. We're going to recap the deadline date. So October the 17th is our suggested early deadline date. And once the online application opens up on September the 27th, you can actually start doing that even before the 17th if you're ready to go. November 1st is the final date to do the online application, submitting your online application, fee, and transcripts. And then November 15th is when the supporting documentation is due. For the 2-year and the advanced standing, November 1st is our suggested early deadline date. Again, you can start earlier after the 27th of September. November 28th is our final date to submit the online application, fee, transcripts, and then December 10th is the supporting documentation deadline. Again, 11:59 is our timestamp. And over to Terry now about Profiles in Social Work.
Profiles in Social Work is the faculty's podcast series featuring graduates of the MSW program, sharing a little bit of their experience at the faculty, but also the kinds of work that they do now. Our alumni are in many social work roles, some traditional, some not, and it's an opportunity to hear about what the work actually looks like. The podcast can be accessed on the faculty website and via Facebook.
This is the admissions email account, so if you need to reach out to us regarding your application, have questions regarding admission, please email us here at admissions.fsw@utoronto.ca.
Thank you so much for your interest in the MSW programs at the Factor-Inwentash Faculty of Social Work. We thank you for your time, and we are glad that you were able to spend the time with us for this information session. I hope that it was helpful, and we wish you all the best if you apply and with all of your other endeavors.
Thank you.